Imagine everything you possess, smashed, soiled, flooded, and dashed across what was once your neighborhood. Miles inland, the waters moved in fast and low, spreading across the Gulf, and then rising to a stunning 40 feet at the coast. Those that stayed made a panic dash to the attic, and if their houses withstood the Category 5 winds, the roofs were soon pierced from within as the inhabitants poked and prodded their way out. When the waters receded, homes were slammed back down to the ground, sometimes inches from their foundations, sometimes hundreds of yards away. Everywhere you looked on the ground, you find finely pulverized mementos from people's homes, countless memories, once frozen in photos, erased by Katrina's waters. Looking up to the trees, you see a distinct line of debris stranded high above where the waters once stood. Anyone you meet can point across the way to homes where many of their neighbors stayed behind and lost their bet with Katrina. Across the world, we all watched in horror as the devastation unfolded before us. New Orleans filled like a bowl, sending millions fleeing from their homes. The government stood dumbfounded, and there was a dawning realization that help was not coming from those we entrusted with our safety. Volunteers by the thousands began to pour into the region. The focus was New Orleans, and the unbelievable devastation caused by 2 weeks of standing floodwaters. The news media swarmed the city and was providing better analysis of the situation than the military. While the cameras were rolling and the tension building in the city, the rest of the story went untold. There was catastrophic devastation from Texas to Alabama. Many lost their lives. Millions lost their homes. All lost their dreams. Sister Donna Dodge, Sacred Heart University's then Director of Mission and Planning, and assistant to the Vice President Eileen Birch, charted a mission to help several devastated parishes in the low-lying communities of Waveland and Bay St. Louis. In March 2006, while most students across the nation headed out for spring break in the usual locations, one group of 34 students and advisors from Sacred Heart University gathered on a cold, wintry morning and flew into New Orleans International Airport. In part one of this documentary, we tell their story. The second contingent of students from Sacred Heart University traveled to the Gulf 9 weeks later. In part two of our film, we followed this group through their time spent at Camp Second Helping, a community of volunteers and free spirits, helping feed, clothe, and rebuild the shattered coastal community of Waveland, Mississippi.
On the very first trip, I would say devastation was the overwhelming sort of emotional impact of what we were looking at.
I was ill-prepared for, the visual impact of the devastation down there. It was awful.
The worst devastation I'd ever seen. It's like I was in a third world country or a war zone.
It wasn't just that houses were destroyed or that we could walk down a road and we'd see where the foundation of something once was. It was the silence, the absence of people.
I spent many years, 8.5 years in West Africa and many years in India. And nothing really prepared me for the devastation I experienced in Mississippi.
This overwhelming sense that this went on and on and on. It wasn't like looking at one house that had been destroyed, but we could travel for miles. And it wasn't just the poorest areas that were destroyed. It was also some of the richest along the coast.
When we first got to New Orleans, we started driving to Mississippi. First, all I saw was blue tarps on a lot of the roofs in New Orleans.
And as we drove away from New Orleans, I thought it was going to get better. And I actually drove with Greg in the car, and he told me that it was much worse where we were going to go, and I couldn't imagine it.
Over the past century, the Corps of Engineers and other projects have diverted the Mississippi River. So instead of the Mississippi River flooding this area and depositing new soil every year, because they stopped that flooding, there's been no new soil being deposited. So as the land compresses, water from the ground rises up, but not even at a rate to keep it as fresh water. So essentially the Gulf of Mexico is intruding on this land. And where you see dead trees means that was once higher ground, and or salt water has flooded. So that kills the trees that can't live in that kind of soil.
Then as we got into Mississippi, I could see damage to the trees, damage to the houses. So it got progressively worse the further we got away from New Orleans.
It just got progressively worse as we drove into Mississippi. When we found the center, I didn't really know what to expect. We were told before we went that we were probably going to be staying with 100 to 120 other students from other college campuses as well.
Nice room. I just got here myself. I haven't got a chance to unpack, but here's my lovely bed. I'll be sleeping right here. And I think there's going to be people from all over the place. So there's going to be more people sleeping here. It should be cool. It'll be fun.
Excited?
Yeah. Yeah, this is going to be great.
But it was very nice, actually. There was a chapel, a sitting area, a lounge area, and 3 bedrooms and a dining area where we all ate.
At night, after dinner, we all usually hung out, whether we were playing outside, like football or horseshoes, or on the baseball field.
We really spent our time together very well, I should say.
Yeah, we just got up, getting ready for day 2. I think today we're actually going to do some work, although it won't be as organized as it will be later in the week. It's going to be kind of a lot of people scrambling to be divided amongst the different jobs. So.
We're going to be sanding and mudding all day.
So cut down some trees and move some debris. Painters. How many do we have altogether?
Chainsaws and debris removal.
Chainsaw?
Yeah.
Gotta fill that out for me. Get the lady to fill this out for me.
One house right down here, but first we're going to go to Bay St. Louis.
Hey, team.
Look at this.
All right.
All right, what are you doing?
Yours, mine, and his.
I think debris, I'm not sure.
Mudding and sanding.
Going sheetrocking today.
The first day, worked on a house with Pat and Father Anthony.
This is 317 SB Ave, and yesterday what we did is we put up this sheetrock all over this wall here, and the bottom half of this wall over here, and that was Pat and myself.
Basically what that house needed was to be rebuilt for the most part. When we got there, it was mostly sheetrock that needed to be done, putting up the rest of the walls.
You have to put on quite a bit. Okay? Because then what we do is we run, see, like that.
The house had been built a month before Katrina hit, and the water line was approximately 13 feet high. We learned how to sheetrock very quickly, started putting some houses up, and throughout the week, we worked on that house.
Oh. What do you think of that? I tell you, I've been marked.
By the time we were finished, we had sheetrock and taped 4 rooms. Put a door in, but it wasn't a door before, and cleared out any of the debris that was left in there.
I mean, it's